Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. And today I'm talking about the record Lola versus the Powerman and Moneyground. I think I got that title right, by the Kinks. Really should have done a Kinks review a long time ago, but I finally got my hands on a copy of this classic record, and I am excited to talk about it. So part of the context for this, in my previous video on In the Wee Small Hours by Frank Sinatra, I talked about the term concept album and how I feel like it creates confusion because there are concept albums and there are what I call auteur albums, albums that are meant to be listened to as a holistic piece of music that have some sort of higher cohesive artistic vision, but maybe aren't a fully coherent concept. And I think a lot of what get called concept albums, Dark Side of the Moon or Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, are really auteur albums. Now, Lola versus Powerman and the Moneyground is a bit closer to being an actual concept album, though of course it is often a spectrum and you could call it an auteur album as well. This one opens with a song called The Contender. It starts with a kind of sloppy sounding country kind of feel, but then it moves to more of a rockabilly thing, and then it changes again to this serene my. Playful and kind of messy, but also dramatic. It captures the high imaginative feeling of aspiring to be a musician. And that's what the concept of this record is. There's this great line that goes, "I don't want to be like a fascist dictator, a saint, or a sinner. I want to be a winner." Kind of over dramatic words that maybe don't quite fit, but it's just having fun with punchiness. It wants to do anything that rhymes. It's sort of whimsical, creative, making a point, but not making too serious a point all at once. Interesting start. Track number 2 is written by a man who's usually the lead guitarist for the Kinks, but occasionally a singer and songwriter as well, Dave. I'm not sure if it's Davies or Davis. So as I understand it, the name is of Welsh origin and it's meant to be pronounced Davis. But I think there's even a disagreement between the two Kinks brothers, Dave and Ray. I think one of them pronounces it Davies and one of them pronounces it Davis. Can't remember which, so I'll be inconsistent. Sue me. But anyway, Ray Davis is the main singer and songwriter for the group. Track number 2, Strangers, written by Dave, the brother and usual lead guitarist. Dave Davis revealed that this song was about a friend he had once envisioned starting a band with, and then this friend kind of ran into trouble. And I guess it makes for a sort of interesting alternative origin story for this record. It could be interpreted as literally about the Kinks' struggles with the music industry, but Dave almost adds an alternative timeline to the kind of pain that can come about. So many bands seem to fall apart, people struggle with addiction, etc., and come out of touch. So again, this is not a fully linear concept album. It brings in various semi-related thoughts that Ray and Dave Davis has, and it tries to string them together. Track number 3 is called Denmark Street. And when you listen to a track like this, you absolutely feel like you're listening to a concept album, because this song is not written to be a standalone hit. It's kind of a simple, folksy song, though it has a kind of fun, upbeat musical shift midway through, and it's pretty direct in its lyric. It denounces music executives for not actually liking the music, but becoming invested in it just because they're convinced they can profit off of it. Track number 4 is called Back in Line. This one sounds like the earlier Kinks hit Waterloo Sunset. It has this nice, beautiful, glittery sound to it. Also almost has like a Broadway musical feel. When you first look at the lyrics, it seems to have an anti-union thing going on, which was a bit uncomfortable for me, and that was the interpretation the reviewer for AllMusic.com had. But then when I looked a little bit into the background of the Kinks and of Ray Davis, I saw that he was banned from coming into the United States because the musicians union in America saw him as too rowdy and basically told US visa people not to let him in. So that's a reason for not liking a union that's not inherently right-wing. So I like to think that's what's going on with the song, because I sense if Ray Davies had any politics at all, they were certainly labor-oriented. Track number 5 is called Lola, far and away the most famous song on the record. And the key to this one's success is that it's a bit of everything. It has a bit of hard rock riff to give it energy, but the vocals are smooth and it has this lush full sound thanks to both vocal harmonies and piano. The chord pattern is simple but also a bit unconventional, and just the way it goes do 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 at the end of the verses makes for the perfect earworm. Now, this is a song where the singer meets someone and doesn't realize at first. I believe they're just supposed to be a drag queen, but I guess they could be interpreted as being transgender as well. And I guess this is sort of the more positive side of the music world. The music world was counterculture. Music world was being open-minded to things conservative society would reject. This album is called Lola versus the Powerman, Lola versus Powerman and the Moneyground. So Lola represents the good side of the music world, while Powerman and the Moneyground represent the bad side. So track number 6, Top of the Pops, back to another song that's strictly part of the concept part of the album, not really meant to be a hit on its own. The singer in this lyrics is appearing to be successful, but is kind of ambivalent about it because, again, as was revealed in track 3, the executives only care about the money. They aren't actually invested in the art of it all. There's also a reference to being interviewed about politics and religion. So, as I mentioned with my comments on track 4, Ray Davis's lyrics sometimes can sound political, but when I read a bit about him, he really doesn't like to talk about politics at all, and he gets anxious when his lyrics are interpreted that way. He doesn't like to answer those kind of questions, which makes for an interesting conversation. I guess he's just a very observant artsy type. He wants to write about all the concepts he absorbs in the world, and having the interest in doing that doesn't necessarily mean you want to talk about them in a politically analytical way, but it does make for an interesting dilemma because interviewers who really like music understandably want to find ways to make it deeper to connect with it, but Ray is saying he doesn't like it when they connect with it in that kind of way. Track number 7 is called The Moneyground. Yet another song that just feels like it's part of building the concept. Now, track number 8, This Time Tomorrow, sounds really nice. It has this spacey escape feel to it. It has a similarly full, rich, warm sound to Lola. And if you look at the lyrics, it's still building on the concept. It's still on the pessimistic side. It seems to be about the monotony of constantly touring, but it's also about trying to get into a relaxed headspace while doing that. It talks about watching in-flight movies, which could be interpreted as frustration with that kind of limited entertainment, or it could be just enjoying the moment. Track number 9 is called A Long Way From Home, and like track 8, it continues to build on the concept of the record while feeling a bit more musically complete. It's a piano-dominated song, which gives it some smoothness and beauty. Perhaps the reason it's performed on the piano and not sort of in that sort of pseudo-hillbilly way that some of the earlier concepts are is it's sung from the perspective of a different character. This song is sung from the perspective of a musician's friend concerned that fame is changed from the musician. It is not sung directly from the voice of the cynical musician himself. Track number 10 is called Rats, and this is the second and other song composed by Dave Davis on the record. It's seemingly about being bobbed by fans after achieving success. That said, I don't quite get the metaphor. The imagery of rats comes across as something sinister. Rats are often portrayed, fairly or not, as villains in cartoons, whereas I would think of fans not as like scary horror movie-esque. I would think of them as just kind of a nuisance. Musically, this one has a bit of a David Bowie, Suffragette City, frantic energy. Track number 11, sort of the number 2 hit after Lola, is called 8 Man. And it's like Lola, it has a very bright sound, making use of steel pans, going for an island escapist feel. And it's, again, hard to tell what's going on with here. Is Ray Davis making fun of back-to-the-earth hippies, or is he identifying with them because of his hate for the music industry? I feel like it's kind of a well, these people are weird, but I'd rather be with them than the awful people in the music industry thing going on. So he's both making fun of the so-called ape men, those who want to escape to nature, while also identifying with them. I think that's what's going on. Track number 12 is called The Powerman. This is kind of the helter-skelter of the record. You also hear a bit of an Indian influence. It's a full, intense song, but it doesn't do too much for me. It's just sort of saying what's already been said, that the record industry has money-driven executives who wield a lot of power, even if it doesn't feel like they deserve to. And then finally, track number 13, Gotta Be 3, returns to the beginning of track number 1, The Contender, kind of imitation country song singing about this desire to be free, I guess wanting to escape from all this anger and cynicism that has defined a lot of the rest of the record. So yeah, overall I can very much see why Lola versus Powerman and the Moneyground is a classic, because yeah, it has a lot of songs that feel really special, really get stuck in your head in terms of Lola, This Time Tomorrow, and Ape Man. And while the other songs might not be as strong in the same way, they build on this concept. You can instantly tell what's going on. There are a lot of fun little observations. You can tell this is written by someone who's actually dealt with and been frustrated by the music industry, but it doesn't let the concept get in the way of the entertainment. So let me know what you think of this and any other favorite Kinks records you may have. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.